Dawnlight, welcome to Forfellingness Belysning illumination from the ancestors, guiding your path today.
Every day, someone's little girl, daughter, sister, girlfriend, fiancé, wife, cousin, mother, auntie, grandmother, great-grandmother, elder, disappears, shattering a family, a community, the world. There is something we can all do. Remember them.
Good morgen, and happy Mani's Day to you. Today we celebrate the moon and the rising of a new week. It's so exciting. And today we are actually talking about the spear of Gungnir. That spear carried by Odin and provided a balance. So we're going to talk about the benefit of that in our everyday life. But before we get started, as always, I want to say thank you to all of you who have liked, followed, and subscribed us on any of the platforms, including a brand new show, a brand new distribution, which I'm hoping becomes successful. And this is KWWP Anchorage, Alaska, which is a AzuraCast, Azura hosting radio station. That'll be available kind of going forward. So we're really excited about that. And as always, I want to give a huge shout out to my friends and family at New Reality TV, newrealitytv.com, a streaming channel dedicated to a plethora of perspectives that offer just a multitude of ways at which you could find something that resonates with you and helps you along your spiritual journey. Well, today's show brought to you by fournseven-poster-frame. Every hull, every wagon, every shield once bore the mark of pride. Fournseven's decals carries that same spirit into your home and travels. Symbols that set you apart, bold designs that speak of strength and your story. So check them out. Be sure to check them out at akumedia.akulfhednar.com/sponsors. So check them out. All right. So today we're talking about the swaying one. Now, for those of you not familiar with Gungnir, or the swaying one, the Gungnir was a spear carried by Odin throughout the sagas. Many different stories include the spear, and forged by the dwarves, much like many of the other weapons, particularly the magical weapons, as the dwarves were capable of doing that, according to the sagas. Probably more popular and more famous was Mjolnir, formed from a dying star. Mjolnir was another one of these tools forged by the dwarves. Now, in legend and lore, there are many different stories about Gungnir. Gungnir would return, very much like Mjolnir, to Thor's hands. Gungnir would return to Odin's, and it never missed when thrown. So it always struck its target. But there are many stories about Gungnir where it's providing stability. Now, when we talk about stability is really relative in this big picture of things. Think about the mighty oak tree. The mighty oak tree sways with the northern winds. It allows some creaking and moving back and forth, and it allows that so that it doesn't break. Well, the same thing with the swaying one. Its mark was true because it had flexibility. It had the ability to sway with the the launch, the travels, and of course the striking of the target. Now we also read in the saga when Odin was seeking knowledge in the runes, in the power and the magic within the runes. He would hang himself from Yggdrasil by impaling himself with Gungnir. He would hang on Gungnir for 9 days and 9 nights with no food, no water, as he sought the power of the runes, the letters contained within the Futhark. So the runes were very important, but so was Gungnir. Why was Gungnir important? Well, Gungnir was obviously impaling all the way through Odin's physical form into the tree Yggdrasil, where he would hang from it. His whole body would hang from the spear, providing stability, providing clarity, providing this ability to be completely supported by the swaying. This really brings to mind recently here in Alaska, for those of you who are not news watchers. Recently, we had Typhoon Hallow come ashore here in the western Alaska anyway. And so many villages were just decimated. The peoples there were displaced. They are many of them traveled to Bethel, and which is a town towards the west of us, and or ultimately would come into town to actually hitting wrong buttons is what I'm doing. Okay, there we go. Anyway, so they've come into town now here in Anchorage, and many of them are confused. They're scared. They're lost, and they've lost everything. So quite a dramatic or traumatic event. Having a typhoon come ashore here in Alaska, particularly as we get ready, as we're kind of shifting from fall into winter. So temperatures are starting to drop, and of course, with tidal flooding and whatnot, you get a lot of standing water, which will then now become ice. So many of these villages are just decimated. And so my heart goes out to all of those affected, whether you were affected personally, you lived there, and now you're being kind of shuffled to Bethel and on into Anchorage, or whether your loved ones are now coming into town from those locations because they've been displaced. Either way, we notice that there's a lot of dark energy just circulating right now. Why? Because there's a lot of uncertainty, particularly with these families that are being relocated. You know, what's going to happen? What's the future hold? So new chapters are being written, quite honestly, every way we're turned. And there will come some good, and there will come some probably not so good energies of influence in many individuals' lives. So lots of dark energy, but we have to remember that along the path there will be steps, there will be moments along this path where the waters are very choppy in our lives, in our minds. The energy is just confusing. It may be uncertain. It may be painful. Certainly heartbreaking. But this is our path of learning. And so we will grow from this. We will learn from this. We will grow. We will change. We will morph into another version of who we are. So, while there is a lot of pain and strife, this is a lesson to learn for sure. So maybe and I'm here in Anchorage, so I have these lessons are kind of not as poignant to me, but nonetheless, when we think about Gungnir today, and we think about the swaying one, we're thinking about the mighty oak tree as it sways with the northern wind. This these moments in time are your test of, swaying with the northern winds, that we may not break, that we may allow ourselves to kind of flow with this and become better versions of ourselves. So while I by no means am saying all is right and the world is a beautiful place, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the creators, the gods, are providing for us that which we may need to move to our next level of evolution, whatever that looks like for each of us. Remember, each of our journeys are very unique, and the experiences that we have in this physical realm are simply to allow us to recognize our next step, wherever we are going next. So while realizing that there may be a lot of pain and heartbreak and sorrow and confusion and all of these things, it's wonderful when we stop and think about our journey of learning, of growing, of changing. Could this have been a catalyst to relocating some of the villages that were struck, Kipnuk, Quigildanok, many of these different villages. By no means am I any more knowledgeable in the journey forward for you than you are, but I recognize that sometimes I refer to it in my own personal life as those 2x4 moments in my life. I was living a very horrible life. I call it my dark decade. And my dark decade came to an end when I overdosed on heroin. And it was at that moment, particularly looking back at it, I realized that was one of my 2x4 moments in my life where the gods, said, "Hey, pay attention. You're not listening. Schmack." And that's what they did. And so I overdosed. And by the grace of the gods, I was found in a drain culvert away from town. I was, 15, 20 miles out of town, in a drain culvert, for all intents and purposes, I believe, from what I understand, dead, from an overdose. When I was found by a passerby on a motorcycle, who, of all the people to find me, was someone who had experienced heroin overdoses. Of all the people, what are the odds? And he found me, and he dragged me up from the culvert up to the roadside, where he literally took the belt off his pants and a bungee cord, and he tied us together, put me on the motorcycle, and rode to his home that was out in the desert with his beautiful wife. And they proceeded to essentially lock me in a bedroom and break me, clean me of the heroin. What are the odds? What are the odds? So, when we think about those darkest moments in our lives, what was the lesson? Where did we learn? What did we learn? And so this moment in time where we have storms that are just obviously very, very dangerous, very, very powerful, creating change in our lives. Bad, maybe. Obviously, there is no evil or bad that comes from the universe. It's simply another interpretation. So, what's the interpretation here? And so, there's a lot to think about, right? So, there's a lot to kind of consider when looking at the effects, in this case, of the storm. And like the swaying one of Odin, we have to think about what is the lesson, what can we learn, how do we grow. Maybe I'm always reminded of a very good quote, and I think the movie is actually one of the movies with Steve Carell in it, and I think it's the Noah's Ark thing, where he's in modern day, he's kind of directed to be Noah. And so, he's put to the task of building this ark for the animals in modern day. And his wife, of course, probably thinks he's, off his nut. And so she's in a restaurant and she's talking with Morgan Freeman, whom I enjoy. I very thoroughly enjoy Morgan. And so, and he brings up this wonderful point in that he's explaining, when the gods gives us courage as an example, does he inject us with this magic potion called courage? Or does he give us the opportunity to be courageous? And in those types of moments, do the gods give us the opportunity to be strong, to be clear-headed, to be, hopeful and healing and help others? So there's a lot of opportunities being offered by the gods through an event like this. So while I do not downplay the havoc that this storm brought to Alaska, brought to the peoples, I do want to call out that could this be an opportunity to see a different perspective? And did it have to be as forceful as this to force us to change our perspective, to look at things differently? Right? So I think there are lots of things to think about when it comes to our growth and certainly our evolution along this path. Okay, today, Monday, let's draw upon our rune of today. And today's rune, we ask the question, put it in our mind, we focus on the question, and we draw Gebo. Gebo, a wonderful rune, and this means obviously divine intervention. So how fitting is that? Gebo recognizes appreciation and the dissolution of obstacles, of challenges, of barriers in our lives. It points a way forward for us to think about recognizing, instead of the bending, recognizing the fluidity at which we connect to our environment. and how that's just holds us, and it helps to make us grow, helps us to be strong, helps us to become a better version of ourselves. So, wonderful rune for today. Gebo, of course, is certainly the rune of appreciation, and so it appreciates that we are alive, we are growing, we are learning, we are absorbing energy all around us. So, wonderful rune to have today. Okay, today we're going to take a real quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about ways that we can absorb the lessons of Gungnir and the swaying one, and learn how to move forward to become a better version of ourselves, particularly on this Mani's Day. We'll be right back.
The air. The time is now.
We're all waking up.
We're waking up.
We're all waking up.
It's all shifting.
New vibrations.
It's you.
It's you.
It's me. It's all of us.
Together.
A new time.
A new day.
A new energy.
A new energy.
New reality.
Awaken with us.
Awaken with us.
Awaken with us.
NewRealityTV.com.
All right. Hey, thank you so much for taking that quick break with us. As you know, today's show kind of brought to you by 4-7-poster-frame. And we've talked about it. Every haul, every wagon, every suitcase, every briefcase, everything deserves your mark, your particular symbol that brings you pride, that brings you just intrinsic growth by symbolizing that which you believe in, that which you are strong in. It gives you strength, it gives you courage. Those are the marks that 4-7 offers in their decals and in poster and frame. So be sure to check them out. akumedia.akulfhednar.com/sponsors. A wonderful opportunity. So be sure to check them out. All right. We're talking about the Spear of Gungnir, the famed Spear of Odin, and how it, obviously referred to as the swaying one, a magical spear created by the dwarves, given to Odin, at which to use. And we will read about Gungnir quite frequently in all the sagas, in all the stories, and today is no different. Gungnir, the swaying one, helps us to recognize the flexibility, the adjustability, the willingness and abilities to absorb energy and being able to manage that energy within the mind, certainly within the heart, and to establish this understanding that we are not always going to be on smooth waters, waters of glass. Sometimes these waters will be choppy, and they will be the seas will be angry, and we will have to adjust to that. We will have to steer the craft. We will have to put in extra back into the oars that we may travel. We may still travel even though the seas may be angry. So there's a lot to be learned from the Spear of Gungnir. So for those of you who are not familiar with legend and lore, I would encourage you to you can go out on the internet and you can read all about Gungnir, and certainly Odin's use of Gungnir through all the sagas, and they are you will find that Gungnir is one of those one things in Odin's world that was solid, that was always there, that was always returned. Why? Because it had the flexibility. It was the swaying one, and it could sway with the wind and move around, and it wasn't rigid, and it wouldn't break in that way. So it had the flexibility, and this is really what we need to adopt in our lives, to where we are not so rigid. I'm always I won't say entertained, but I'm always thoughtful of those whom are convinced that their path is the right path for everyone, and that there is no other way. You have to go down this path. And I'm always worried about those individuals because they're not opening their blinders to other opportunities. And so their growth is very limited. Their evolution is certainly very limited. And so it's a great opportunity for us to kind of think about it and go, what can we do? How can we grow? How can we see from this other person's perspective their spiritual journey, their path, right? And how can that affect my path, right? And we have to be open to things like certainly these storms and their effects. It's a very powerful effect. And again, this goes back to possibly needing that 2x4 moment to force us to change our perspective, to force us to change the way we look at that which is happening in our lives, in our world. So we definitely, as we embrace Mani's day to day, we definitely want to kind of begin to willing and able to sway and see the different perspectives as we sway, as we're moving to the left or to the right, thinking about those perspective changes. How are we seeing things differently, and why are we seeing things differently? And most importantly, because we're seeing things differently, how does that change the way we look at everything? And being willing and able to do that is certainly the lesson that we can take away from Gungnir today. As again we celebrate Mani's Day and we embrace for a new week of new adventures, of new opportunity, of new growth, of new evolution. I pray that you will find your path to whatever destiny that the gods have lined for you. May you find that journey. All right, my friends. Today, again, we embrace Mani's Day. We embrace certainly the gods. And however many gods you call upon, may they grant you the path that you need to move forward, to grow, to learn, to heal, to just evolve into the better version that you are seeking for yourself. So may you find all of that. My friends, I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow morning, where we'll embrace the courage of Tyr, and really begin our path, our journey forward into this week, and certainly the evolutionary path that we are on. So I pray that you will join me each and every morning as we embrace belysning, which translates to ancestral illumination or morning illumination. So hopefully we have illuminated you a little today, and you are ready to take on a new week. All right, my friends, I wish you the very best, and I will look forward to seeing you tomorrow for, again, another adventure in belysning.
Watching Ulfhednar's Belysning, a special production of Whispers of the Norse. Brought to you by the Alaska Ulfhednar in South Central Alaska. Guidance and wisdom, courtesy of an ancient Celtic Norse shaman. Thank you so much for joining us today.